everyone. Welcome back to Mr. English Podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm James. Today's episode title is Why Your Brain Freezes When You Speak English and How to Fix It. And honestly, Emma, I think this might be one of the most requested topics we've ever done.
It really is. So many of you have messaged us some version of the same thing. I've studied for years, my grammar is fine, my vocabulary's fine, but the moment a native speaker actually looks me in the eye, my mind goes completely blank.
Completely blank. Like someone just switched off the lights.
Exactly. And here's the wild part. It's not a lack of knowledge at all. It's something happening physically inside your brain, a literal neurological hijack, where a tiny part of your brain called the amygdala basically kidnaps your vocabulary and runs off with it.
Kidnaps your vocabulary. I love that image, but it's honestly not far off from what's actually happening.
Today, we're going to discover exactly why your brain refuses to speak English when you need it most, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Okay, so before we get into the science, Emma, I want to hear your story, because I know you have one.
Oh, I have several, but here's the big one. Last year, I was at a conference, and this incredibly well-known speaker, someone I genuinely admired, walked up to me during the coffee break and just said, "So, what did you think of the keynote?"
Simple question.
So simple. In my own language, I would have had an entire essay ready. But in that moment, in English, staring at this person, my brain just stopped. I opened my mouth, and this tiny, pathetic, "Oh, yes, good, very good," came out. That's it. That's all I had.
Very good. The classic three-word English collapse.
The classic collapse. And afterward, walking away, my brain suddenly remembered every single word I needed. Sophisticated opinions, perfect vocabulary, all of it. 5 minutes too late.
That delayed brilliance is so painfully universal. And honestly, it happens to people speaking their native language too. But it feels so much worse in a second language because we already doubt ourselves more. And speaking of that, I should confess I've had my own version of this. A few years ago, I had to give a presentation in French to my entire department. I'd practiced for weeks, memorized my opening lines, felt completely ready. But the moment I stood up and saw all those faces looking at me, complete blank. I couldn't even remember the word for slide. I just stood there, frozen, while my brain frantically searched for a word I'd known since I was a teenager. That feeling of your own knowledge betraying you is brutal.
Wow, James, I didn't know that. It's almost comforting to know even you, the guy who literally teaches English for a living, have been there.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the real problem, isn't it? It's not that I didn't know French well enough. In that exact moment, my brain simply refused to hand over the words it definitely had stored. It's the same hijack we're talking about today.
And that's exactly the real problem, isn't it? It's not that I didn't know English well enough. In that exact moment, my brain simply refused to hand over the words it definitely had stored.
And this is where the science becomes genuinely fascinating, because what happened to you wasn't really about English at all. It was about survival.
Survival? From a coffee break conversation?
I know it sounds dramatic, but stick with me. Your brain doesn't actually know the difference between a slightly awkward social moment and an actual physical threat. To your nervous system, both can trigger the exact same ancient alarm system.
Wait, so my brain thought that admired keynote speaker was, what, a predator?
In a way, yes, evolutionarily speaking. Here's the reframe I want everyone to really sit with today. Stop thinking of this as an English problem. Start thinking of it as a security system problem. Your brain has a built-in alarm designed over millions of years to protect you from danger. And unfortunately, that alarm can't tell the difference between a lion and a native speaker asking about a keynote.
A lion versus a coffee break question. Okay, I actually love this reframe because it makes me feel a lot less broken and a lot more hijacked, I guess.
Exactly. Hijacked is the perfect word. And that's actually our first vocabulary term for today. But let's build up to it properly. Let's start with the part of the brain responsible for all this drama, the amygdala.
Okay, deep dive time. Tell me everything.
So the amygdala is a small almond-shaped structure deep inside your brain, and its main job is threat detection. It's incredibly fast, faster than conscious thought, and it's constantly scanning your environment, asking one simple question: am I safe right now?
And apparently, standing in front of an intimidating stranger asking me a question in English counts as not safe.
To your amygdala, unfortunately, yes. Especially if you already carry some anxiety around speaking English, or fear of judgment, or past embarrassing moments. The amygdala remembers emotional intensity, not logic. So if you've frozen before, your amygdala has essentially filed speaking English under pressure into the same folder as genuine danger.
That's such an important point, actually, because it explains why it gets worse the more it happens, like a loop feeding itself.
Exactly, a self-reinforcing loop. And here's where our second word comes in: cortisol. When the amygdala sounds its alarm, your body releases cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Cortisol is incredibly useful if you're actually running from danger. It sharpens reflexes, increases heart rate, prepares your muscles for action.
Sounds great for running from a lion. Less great for a coffee break chat.
Precisely, because cortisol, in high amounts, actually suppresses activity in a different part of the brain entirely, the prefrontal cortex, which happens to be exactly where sophisticated language, vocabulary retrieval, and complex sentence structure live.
Wait, so the same chemical that would help me sprint away from danger is literally shutting down my ability to speak nicely?
Exactly that. Your body is essentially saying, forget fancy vocabulary, we might need to run. Even though, obviously, you don't need to run from a coffee break conversation. This entire process is what we're calling a neurological hijack, our third term for today. It's when a lower, more primitive survival system takes control away from your higher, more sophisticated thinking brain.
A neurological hijack. That phrase genuinely makes so much sense now. It's not that I forgot English. My prefrontal cortex just got overruled.
Overruled is such a good way to put it. And that prefrontal cortex, by the way, is where our fourth term lives: executive function. This refers to your brain's higher level management skills: planning, focus, working memory, and crucially, retrieving the right words at the right moment. It's essentially your brain's CEO.
The CEO who gets kicked out of the building the second cortisol shows up.
Exactly. The CEO gets locked out of their own office, and a much more primitive, panicked employee takes over instead. Someone who only knows how to shout run or freeze.
Which brings us to our fifth and final term, freeze response.
Yes, freeze response is exactly what it sounds like. One of the body's automatic reactions to a perceived threat, alongside fight or flight. Sometimes, instead of fighting or fleeing, your nervous system simply shuts down output entirely, which is exactly that blank, silent, yes, very good moment you experienced.
Okay, so let's recap these 5 terms together, because I think this really is the whole story in miniature. The amygdala detects a perceived threat, releases cortisol, which triggers a neurological hijack, overpowering your executive function, and the result is a freeze response.
Beautifully summarized. And honestly, understanding this sequence is already half the solution. Because now you know you're not bad at English in these moments. You're simply experiencing a completely normal, ancient survival mechanism firing at the wrong target.
Okay, that's genuinely comforting. But I want the practical part now, James. How do we actually stop the hijack? How do I get my CEO back in the building?
Great question. And here's the core technique we teach for this. We call it downshifting the alarm. The goal isn't to eliminate nervousness completely. That's unrealistic. The goal is to lower cortisol just enough that your prefrontal cortex can stay online. Okay, walk me through it. Step 1, physical grounding. Before speaking, take one slow breath where your exhale is longer than your inhale. This single action directly signals your nervous system that you are safe, because rapid, shallow breathing is what your body associates with danger. A longer exhale is like sending a memo straight to the amygdala, saying, false alarm, stand down. A memo to the amygdala. I love that image. Step 2, lower the stakes internally. Instead of thinking, I need to sound impressive, reframe it as, I just need to communicate one simple idea. Remember, high performance pressure is exactly what triggers the hijack in the first place. So lowering the pressure, even artificially, keeps the alarm quieter. So instead of my brain thinking, impress this famous speaker, it should think, just answer the question. That's it.
Exactly. Small, achievable goals bypass the threat detector entirely because small goals don't feel dangerous.
Okay. Step 3.
Step 3, and this is honestly the most powerful one, prepare a reset phrase. A short, simple sentence you can say the instant you feel the freeze coming. Something like, let me think about that for a second. Or, that's a great question. Give me a moment. This buys your prefrontal cortex a few seconds to reboot without an awkward silence.
Oh, that's such a good practical phrase to steal. Let me think about that for a second. It sounds thoughtful, not panicked.
Exactly. It reframes the pause as confidence rather than confusion. And here's a subtle but important tip. The phrasing matters culturally too. In some cultures, a long silence might feel uncomfortable, but a phrase like, that's a great question, fills that space and signals careful consideration rather than hesitation. It buys you time without making the other person feel awkward. It's a small tweak, but it works across almost any context. And here's a bonus insight. The more you practice this reset phrase in low-stakes situations, ordering coffee, small talk with a neighbor, the more your brain associates that phrase with safety, which weakens the hijack over time.
So it's kind of like training your amygdala the same way you'd train a nervous dog? Small, safe, repeated exposure? I've genuinely never heard it compared to training a nervous dog before. But honestly, that's a surprisingly accurate metaphor. Consistent, gentle exposure teaches the amygdala that this particular threat is actually completely harmless. Okay, well, funny enough, I actually tried a version of your reset phrase last week without even realizing it. I was in another slightly intimidating conversation, felt that familiar freeze creeping up, and instead of panicking, I just said, sorry, let me gather my thoughts for a second.
And what happened? Leaning forward, curious.
Genuinely, nothing dramatic, which was the beautiful part. Nobody stared at me, nobody judged me. The conversation just paused politely and then continued once I had my words back.
That is exactly the win we're looking for. That's your executive function staying online instead of getting completely hijacked.
Okay, before we get to the homework, I want to add one more layer here, because I think there's a slightly harder version of this problem that a lot of our listeners deal with: group settings.
Oh, that's a great addition. Because everything we just described gets amplified the moment you're not speaking to one person, but to a whole room or a whole video call full of faces.
Exactly. Like a meeting with 10 people staring at their little camera boxes, and suddenly you're expected to say something intelligent.
Right, and here's why groups make the hijack so much worse. Your amygdala doesn't just register one potential threat, it registers multiple observers, which your ancient brain interprets as higher social stakes, meaning a bigger potential cost if things go wrong. More eyes, more perceived danger, more cortisol.
So it's not just one alarm going off, it's like 10 small alarms all ringing at once.
Exactly that. And this is why so many fluent English speakers can chat beautifully one-on-one, but completely lock up the moment they're asked to speak in a group setting or give a presentation. It's genuinely not a knowledge issue. It's a scaled-up version of the exact same hijack we've been discussing.
Okay, so is there a modified version of the reset phrase for groups specifically?
There is, and this is honestly one of my favorite tricks. In group settings, instead of trying to address the entire room in your head, mentally pick one single friendly-looking face and speak directly to that one person, as if it's a private conversation. It's a small trick, but it tricks your amygdala into perceiving a one-on-one situation instead of a group threat.
Oh, I love that. Find the one friendly face. That's such a simple, stealable trick.
It really is. And combine that with our earlier reset phrase, and suddenly a group presentation feels far more manageable because you've essentially shrunk 10 alarms back down into one.
Okay, I'm definitely going to be doing this at my next big meeting, quietly scanning the room for my one friendly face like some kind of secret mission.
Secret mission, exactly. And honestly, nobody else in the room will ever know you're doing it, which is the beauty of it.
Okay, I think that's the perfect note to tie this whole episode together on. Your amygdala detects a perceived social threat, floods your system with cortisol, triggers a neurological hijack, overpowers your executive function, and produces a freeze response. But by grounding your breath, lowering internal stakes, and preparing a simple reset phrase, or finding that one friendly face in a group, you can keep your prefrontal cortex online, even under real pressure.
Beautifully tied together, as always. Honestly, I think this episode alone would have saved you so much embarrassment at that conference last year.
Well, now I'm prepared for the next one.
Extremely prepared. Okay, I think this is a wonderful place to wrap up today's episode.
Agreed. So here's your homework, if you want it. Next time you feel that familiar, blank, silent freeze creeping in during an English conversation, don't panic. Just breathe out slowly, lower your internal stakes, and use your reset phrase. And genuinely, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. If you've ever had your own very good moment, that painfully small, awkward response when your brain went blank, drop a comment and tell us about it. We absolutely love reading those stories. They make us feel so much less alone in this.
We really do read every single one. And remember, your brain isn't broken. It's just a little overprotective sometimes.
A little overprotective. Honestly, that's such a kind way to think about it. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I can just think, oh, there's my amygdala again, being dramatic.
Exactly. Give it a little nickname if that helps. Mine's basically a nervous security guard who's seen one too many action movies.
A nervous security guard. I love that. Mine can officially be the drama queen.
Perfect. Well, whatever you name yours, just remember, it's trying to protect you. It's just aiming at the wrong target sometimes.
A little overprotective. I love that. Take care of your English and take care of that hardworking, slightly dramatic amygdala of yours.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.